Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to SoCal SoCial. Today we have Derek Mason. He has been a local San Diegan for about 10 years now, originally from Daytona, Florida, but traveled over here, and he's the founder of VanCraft. So we are going to get into his inspiration behind it, what drives him, his leap of faith, and how traveling has helped him in many ways.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So what is VanCraft?
Yeah, so VanCraft is a camper van manufacturer and rental company. We've got 2 rental locations. We rent vans in San Diego and Denver. And then all of our manufacturing is done in Salt Lake City. And so we build brand new vans that are identical to the ones that we rent that are for sale. So we're selling brand new vans too.
And how did this get started?
Yeah, so we've been doing it for 6 years. I always wanted to start my own business, but I never had an idea that I thought was good enough to actually commit to. I was stuck in a 9-to-5 office job, cruising Craigslist one day, came across a camper van, and sort of the rest is history. So yeah, I'm sitting in my office job, find this van on Craigslist. This is like 2014, I think. Yeah, end of 2014. So van life is not really a thing yet, but decided to buy the van, like sold immediately, called the guy up, buy the van. My girlfriend and I take a couple trips and really like it. It's a really unique way of traveling when you have everything that you need all self-contained in your vehicle. We're both pretty tired of our jobs and decided that we're just going to quit our jobs and travel for a year. So I guess that's what you would call the leap of faith.
Yeah, definitely.
We had a little money saved up, so it wasn't that scary. But we decided we're going to travel for the year. We drove the van all the way down through Central America to the end of El Salvador. So we went down through Baja, mainland Mexico, get all the way to El Salvador, and came back up through the other Yucatan Peninsula side of Mexico. Had some great adventures along the way. Went home to visit family in Florida for the holidays, and the second half of that trip turned into a big ski trip. So it's middle of winter, we're driving across country, visiting family. I have a lot of my family lives in Colorado, and I grew up snow skiing, so went out there to visit, get back to California, and it's like almost a year later, a little less, and don't want to get another job. So I hit up the guy I bought the van from, and we had sort of become friends, because when you buy a vehicle on Craigslist, you're like calling the guy to ask him questions like, why is this way, why is this broken,
right.
That kind of thing. He was really cool about it. So we established a friendship, and met back up just to kind of talk about the trip. He was super interested in hearing about our travels, and I asked him that if he would be willing to help me build another van. So my first van was a low roof, couldn't stand up inside, and after living in a van for a year, I decided I wanted to be able to stand up inside the van, and I had some different ideas on like some improvements that I want to make. So that was really the first iteration of VanCraft. He helped me build a Sprinter, and yeah, it just went from there.
So what's your vision with VanCraft? You're just wanting other people to experience what you did?
That in the beginning, it started out like we need to make some money, flipping vans basically. Mm-hmm. And so the first van turned into 2 vans, and then it was like, wow, we're actually making some money doing this. Maybe we should, pursue it more legit. Got a shop space, and the vision kind of grew out of that. So I've always had a passion for traveling. Like you mentioned in the intro, it has definitely improved my quality of life a lot. And just giving me a different perspective, seeing how other people live their lives around the world. My vision for VanCraft is rooted in this belief that like travel really has the opportunity to make the world a better place. And so it's kind of like this big grandiose idea, but I really do believe that. And so there's a certain form of travel also that's harder to come by nowadays. And it's really easy to like book an all-inclusive trip, book an Airbnb, have your reservations all laid out, but there's a big difference between traveling and taking a vacation. And so in a camper van, when you're in it and traveling, you don't necessarily have to have reservations, you don't even have to have self-service, and you're just free to kind of go where you want, when you want. If you like one spot, you can
stay longer.
Yeah, stay a couple days, check it out. If you get there, you don't like it, you can be on to the next one.
So what's been your biggest takeaway from traveling? How do you think it's helped you?
I think really it's just about broadening your perspective in a lot of ways and being able to find that flow, kind of go with the flow.
So you mentioned that traveling can make the world a better place. How so?
So I think it's mostly in like altering people's perspective through travel. So my goal with VanCraft is to sell the Great American Road Trip to international travelers. That's our main goal with the rental side of the business.
Okay.
And we want it to be like an American institution. So how you might think of like backpacking in Europe, we want that to be what taking a road trip in a VanCraft campervan is to international tourists. And part of that stems from me having done a backpacking trip myself, like right after high school. So I was 17, got a ticket to Rome and had no reservations. This was before smartphones. This was before like you could go on Airbnb and book stuff in advance. So we just went, bought a train ticket so you can hop trains around Europe, and we want to make that experience possible for international tourists who want to come visit the US. So the vision is, sharing what makes America so great with the rest of the world, which distilled down in one word is freedom. And I believe that freedom is best experienced firsthand. So when you're behind the wheel of a van and free to go and travel wherever you want, you'll really get that.
And being in the van for days on end, is it hard, or what has been like the biggest struggle with that?
Yeah, it's definitely a hurdle for some people, especially if they haven't traveled before or if they're used to like the hotel vacation style of traveling.
Right.
We try to set the vans up so they have all the creature comforts of home with the exception of a bathroom. So that's really the biggest hurdle for most people. They're asking where do you find the bathroom, and it's like camping. It's like a mix between camping and staying in a hotel.
Right. So back to how you got started.
Yeah.
What was funding like? You just quitting your regular job, traveling. How did you go about all of that?
Yeah, so when I quit my job, like I had a little bit of savings, basically enough to comfortably travel on for a while in a van because your expenses are pretty low. And then luckily, right before I had left, I went into my bank and told them that I was going to be leaving the countries, filled out like every country I was going to travel to so my card wouldn't get canceled while I was down there. And the guy, it was Wells Fargo, and the guy's like asking me if I'm interested in a personal line of credit. And I told him, no, I don't need that. I don't want any credit.
Yeah.
Like I have my cash saved up to travel. And something just sparked in my head before I left, and I was like, you know what, I actually might need that when I get back, just in case, like kind of a security net. So got a personal line of credit, didn't touch it, got back, and in the time from when I had bought the van, kind of pre-van life, the whole van life thing had kind of started to trend on Instagram, and people were getting into camper vans more so, like end of 2015, early 2016. And so the van was actually worth way more money than I had bought it for. And I had fixed it up and put a bunch of extra features on it. And so between selling the van when I got back, I had a little bit of cash. And then early on when we were starting the business, I would just max out my credit card and credit line. I had a credit card with a pretty good interest rate and a pretty high credit limit. I could pull cash from the credit line if I needed cash. and it was like $30,000, I think, at first. So we maxed the credit cards out, and I say we, it's me and my co-founder Nate, but I'm maxing my credit cards out, and then paying them off. Yeah, we'd sell a van, pay them off, ask the bank for a credit limit increase, get more credit, so then we could build 2 vans at a time, max them out, pay them off. But that was also somewhat of a leap of faith, because you're maxing the credit cards out, you got bills coming due, and there were multiple points along the way where it was like, I was calling Nate and I'm like, hey, we have to sell a van tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how we're going to make payroll.
So you have employees now. How many people are working for VanCraft?
Good question. It's always kind of a flux. It's, let me add it up real quick. I think we're at 15 full-time employees, and then we have a couple part-time rental associates. So I guess it'd be 17 total, yeah, including the 3 of us who own the business.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And that's been over how long a period of time?
It's been 6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah.
So you've grown quite a bit. And what has been like the most beneficial marketing that you've done, or how do you think that you've grown so fast?
Yeah, so early on, we were really lucky to just hit that sweet spot with Instagram, where the campervan van life was really trending for the first few years. So yeah, I'd say the first 3 years it was mainly Instagram. And so when I was on my trip through Central America, I was posting on Instagram and had gained a little bit of a following, not a whole lot, maybe like 3,000-4,000 people. And then when I got back, Nate and I, while we're building the first Sprinter camper, we're putting that content on Instagram as well. And we're kind of one of the first accounts that was doing like a step-by-step behind the scenes of a van build on Instagram, which became really popular. Actually, it's kind of organically how we decided to start the business, because initially I wasn't sure if we were gonna sell the van. We had so many people reaching out on Instagram who were interested in buying the van that we just decided we couldn't say no. We had to sell the van. And then Instagram was working really well for us. We got really lucky and got linked up with a social media influencer named Sara Underwood, and she had 8 million followers at the time. And she responded back in the DM, was dropping the van life hashtag in her posts, and I'm not sure if you know who she is, but she's like a ex-Playboy Playmate of the Year, boudoir, outdoor, kind of super snarky content, pretty like scandalous, you know?
Okay.
Anyways, there was a joke she made like about pitching a tent or something, and I think I replied on a comment saying that if she wanted to give van life a try, we had a van for her in San Diego with no tent pitching required.
Oh my god.
And she must have thought that was good enough or something, because she hit us back, and that was one of our first rentals. So we just we traded her a free rental in exchange for getting a couple posts on her social media, and it was like overnight we went from 7,000 to maybe 20 or 30,000 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
And I remember realizing while that was happening that we now have this captive audience that we can market to.
Right.
And that's really when the rental side of the business took off. And we decided we were going to start renting vans.
So that's obviously the power of influencers.
Yeah.
So going forward, what are your marketing tactics?
Yeah, so we stuck with that for a while, with Instagram being our main strategy. Currently, we still use Instagram. So what I call it is like a content marketing strategy, where we'll do an in-kind trade, which is just a free van rental in exchange for social media reach, content creation, photography, videography,
right,
that kind of thing. And it's been really successful for us. Also, starting out, I was just really lucky to have a group of friends here in San Diego who are all aspiring photographers and videographers who are who are now professional photographers and videographers. And so we planned these content marketing trips where we'd load up a couple vans and just go on an epic adventure and have my friends come and take photos and videos and put it all over Instagram.
Cool. Yeah, why would you not go?
Yeah.
And San Diego is such a great spot for this too. I feel like a lot of people are really into the van life and just like exploring and outdoors. So you've done all of these really cool, awesome trips with the content creation and then just for your enjoyment. What crazy stories do you have?
Yeah, I've got some pretty good ones. Craziest or like most interesting, I guess, would have to circle back to the Sara Underwood connection. So she took a van for 2 weeks, dropped it back off, and I had sort of like planted the seed that full disclosure, I totally had a huge crush on this girl. She's got 8 million followers. I'm like sliding the DM, trying to play it cool, trying to be a cool guy. So I planted the seed that we would go out to lunch when she got back, just to hear about her trip, hear how it went. And she gets back and she's staying in LA and doesn't want to drop the van back off in San Diego. And so she's asking if I'll come and pick it up. And I was really busy that week and I was just like, it's Sara Underwood, okay, I'll go get the van, like ride the train up. And don't ask her to go on lunch. I'm just like, all right, see you later. She replied back and was like, oh, I'm kind of bummed, that we didn't go get lunch. So I thought at that point I was like, oh, is she, kind of interested in me? What's going on? So I asked her out on a date and got a date. And I kind of need to preface this because this is what makes the story even crazier. It's like, I'm living at my shop at the time, no money, maxing my credit cards out. I don't even have a car. I have a motorcycle, and then I'm driving vans that we're building. And so I planned this date to go pick her up in LA on my motorcycle. I ride my motorcycle all the way to LA, show up, take her on the date, went well, and she'd been interested in buying a camper van or what she wound up buying was like a camper trailer, or a truck camper, so the kind that goes in the back of the truck. And she invites me on a second date, which is to go and road test her new camper truck up in Oregon. And so I fly up to Oregon to go on this trip with her, and we're staying in her camper trailer. Everything, is going pretty well. It was like a climbing trip / camping trip, so I'm taking her climbing, and you really get to know someone really fast when you're in that kind of scenario, like close quarters. Yeah. You really get to know someone quick. So I couldn't tell if it was going well or not. At times it was like really hot and cold.
Yeah.
So
how so?
We'd have a great morning, everything's going great, and then like the afternoon is just like, I don't know what's going on here, like the vibe is off, like I don't think this is a fit. Couldn't really tell what was going on. Well, the funny part of this story, and it actually kind of makes me, it's kind of embarrassing actually, it doesn't put me in the best light, but I'll go ahead and just come out with it. So we've been drinking, we're in Bend, Oregon, and they have a river float there, and so we're doing the river float, filled up an Nalgene with the whole bottle of wine, drank the whole thing kind of thing, go out to dinner after, have a couple drinks more, and so we're both pretty toasty at dinner, and she's sort of like grilling me on, or this is how I felt at the time, she's kind of grilling me on my business and what I'm doing, and I sort of flipped it on her because I was getting kind of annoyed. It was like some pretty personal financial questions and stuff. Yeah. And I flipped it on her and I'm like, all right, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You're your own brand. Where's the Sara Underwood brand in 5 years? And she says, well, I'll never be Kim Kardashian. And I just started laughing. And then I made a terrible joke. And I was like, oh, of course you can be Kim Kardashian. You just have to come out with a sex tape.
Of course. course.
She did not think it was funny. And so, in hindsight, I kind of realized that she was, and I don't know a whole lot about Kim Kardashian, which was kind of my downfall, but in hindsight, she was talking about her Instagram followers, I assume. So like Kim Kardashian has like 50 million Instagram followers or something. She had 8. And so her whole thing was just about her business as a social media influencer on Instagram. I made this horrible joke, ruined the trip. It's like, all right, that was it. Never talk to you again.
Yeah. Did you guys just like leave dinner?
We did, yeah. We left, and then it was like straight to the airport. It's like, all right, I'm headed home.
Oh.
Next day.
Have you guys talked?
No.
Well, better luck on the next influencer.
Thanks, I need it.
So, what advice do you have for people that are wanting to take that leap of faith?
I think the best advice is just that you don't have to have it figured out in advance. So it's just one step at a time, and that there's going to be multiple leaps of faith throughout the whole thing. So you're not sure if something's going to work, but as long as you're doing it for the right reason, and honestly that's kind of the hardest part, is figuring that out, why you really want to do what you want to do. As long as you're doing it for the right reason, the pieces of the puzzle all kind of fall in place.
I love that. And like you were saying that, doing this, you weren't doing it for the money, and that you were more doing it because you truly were like passionate about it and passionate about travel.
Yeah, for me, and I think maybe our generation and like the next generation in general, hopefully, we're not really satisfied just trading time for money. And you can have an office job that's super fulfilling and work for a company that is, doing the right thing. I definitely couldn't sit at a desk 9 to 5, and I figured that out pretty early on. My biggest driver for starting my own business was to find a way that I could make money, but also make a difference somehow, and have a purpose in my occupation. And VanCraft has really turned into that. Even though it wasn't that at the beginning necessarily, as long as you keep working towards that goal, you can make it happen.
And have there been any challenges that have really shaped the way that you do things now?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is, for me anyways, I don't know if this is for everybody, but is leadership. And leadership in a way that is not micromanaging and controlling. So, VanCraft is kind of like my baby. I have 2 other business partners in it. My co-founder, Nate, and then we brought on a 3rd business partner to help grow the business a couple years ago. And so we each have our own interests and idea of what VanCraft is, and really it's like, how do you make that vision a reality without holding too tight on the reins that you're trying to control or micromanage every little aspect of the business. And part of it is delegation, and just knowing that it's never going to be perfect, so just making constant improvements as you go. But hiring employees and splitting up job duties and delegating effectively and being an effective leader. I definitely had to do a lot of work, like personal development type stuff, in order to figure that out too. So it's not just the numbers side of the business, but also
being a team and working together. And so if you are in the San Diego area or not, just visiting, this is a great thing to have, like for the weekends on a music festival. Instead of sleeping in a tent, just rent a van, or if you just want to travel, go up to Yosemite or Joshua Tree, use this guy because he has all of the vans.
Yeah, absolutely. Shameless plug, VanCraft.com, van-craft.com I should say, but if you just Google VanCraft, we'll pop right up. We have rentals in San Diego and Denver, coming soon to Salt Lake City.
Cool.
And then we have 3 models of vans. So we have a micro camper, which is starting under $100 a day. So it's kind of the more backpacker, like affordable option. And then we have 2 models of sprinters. We have the short wheelbase and a long wheelbase sprinter. The short can seat and sleep up to 4 people, and the long can seat and sleep up to 6 people.
Wow.
You can add on a rooftop tent for additional sleeping. but it can totally be affordable if you get a group of friends together. And yeah, it's an amazing way to go have a road trip and go on an adventure.
Yes, I'm next. I have
So,
to do it.
yeah, we'd love it if you'd want to give it a try.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for being here. This is VanCraft. Follow on Instagram, YouTube.
Well, we do have some videos on YouTube, but we're still mainly on Instagram. We do actually have a YouTube strategy that we're just launching. So
Coming soon.
Coming soon, yeah. Instagram is kind of on the way out, so yeah, stay tuned. We're going to have some good stuff coming on YouTube.
All right, and for SoCal SoCial, it's the SoCal SoCial on Instagram, and YouTube you can just you can just search SoCal SoCial. Thank you, happy Tuesday, and we will see you next week.